A big domino is the one action that you can take that makes everything else happen. Just like stacking dominoes, you push down that first one and the rest of them fall. In your agency, there's a big domino. You just have to find it. The thing is, it's not always a business strategy. Sometimes, like it was for me, it was something else entirely. You see, July 25th, 2022 marked a milestone for me. It had been 5 years since I chose to change my relationship with alcohol and decided to quit drinking. No matter what your big domino is, I'm sharing this with you in hopes that you'll find yours. Now, I've probably thought about this and written this over 1,000 times in my mind, but I want to share this with you. I'm super proud to tell you that I've celebrated 5 years since I quit drinking. For those that have spent any amount of time with me over the last 20 years, know that drinking has been an integral part of everything that I did. To end something that was such a deep part of my identity was no small feat. Lots of people over the years have asked me why I stopped. And in most cases, I shrugged it off saying, yeah, I just needed a break and, it's just more than that. But it wasn't a hitting rock bottom situation like you hear those stories about, but things had gradually gotten out of hand. I remember a doctor's visit a few years back and I was pre-diabetic, overweight. She knew my health was suffering and she asked me at what point in the day that I thought about drinking. And I figured, people with drinking problems, those are people who drank every day and started before lunch, and that was not me, so I'm safe. My pattern felt normal to me, and most people in my circle would agree. But happy hours that were once a week turned into daily. 4:30 turned into 1:30, 2 beers turned into a lot more. Safe to say it was all in the name of fun, being social, growing my business, brainstorming, blowing off steam, celebrating win, or numbing a loss. In time, I had to drink more to catch the same buzz that I was seeking. Now that's normal for most, and I wore this tolerance like a badge of honor. Then one day, July 2017, sitting at a bar stool after a meeting, I couldn't get drunk. No matter how much I drank, it just wasn't working, and I felt overweight, ugly, tired, alone, sad. And that's in that moment that I decided I didn't want that anymore. It still took me a few weeks to work up the courage to stop. Now, sometimes people are put into your life for a reason. And one of those people for me is Annie Grace, who I met through Russell Brunson's mastermind. She wrote a book called This Naked Mind, which is all about changing your relationship with alcohol. Another person that I met was Noah Hammond-Terrell, who I also met through Russell, and I worked with him to identify the patterns and the things that were going on in my mind that I already knew that I wanted to change, and with this help, I saw it. Equipped with this fresh frame of mind and a new awareness, something felt different about this time. This wasn't going to be a drinking hiatus like the ones in the past that somehow fit in between my birthday, your birthday, major and minor holidays, vacations, good days at work, bad days at work, business trips, meetings, friends visiting, fundraisers, weddings, Tuesdays. I needed to relearn to do all of those things without alcohol. Now, the biggest misconception about stopping drinking is that it's a single decision made once. But over the years, I've had to choose sobriety over and over again. It feels like I've made that decision at least 1 million times. I felt a lot of freedom in the first couple of months of not drinking. It was like a weight had been lifted. Some in the recovery community will call this the pink cloud. Now, I especially felt this in situations where I was around people who were drinking around me. Some say that they can't be around drinkers when they're seeking sobriety, but for me, it felt liberating. I never realized the burden that I carried during my drinking. Like many other things, I was numb to it. What I'm talking about is the burden of how I was going to drive myself home, convincing myself that I was okay, the burden of feeling sick as I sobered up, the burden of my words, behavior, the burden of coming up with a creative story as to why I wasn't home when I should be, the burden of hanging around people and situations that were no longer serving me, and so many other things. Now, I can't say that that feeling of liberation lasted. In the beginning, the pride of abstaining was enough, but as the excitement around it faded, I was left with this version of me that I had been numbing and escaping for so long. It's both awesome and incredibly scary at the same time. Drinking used to be my answer to the highest highs and the lowest lows. This is when my desire to drink again had been the strongest. If there was one thing that I had to aspire to be grateful for, it's the opportunity to face the lowest lows as my true self under my own power without alcohol. I don't know if this sounds dramatic to you, but parts of what I just said feel dramatic, right? In other words, I think maybe people don't want to hear about this struggle or what I've managed to achieve. And I've got it good, there's lots of people who have a heart. Why am I making such a big deal of this? And maybe it's because from the outside, I think everyone else has it together and doesn't have some deep, dark spots, and I must somehow be alone. But it's not true. Everyone has a pit. Everyone suffers, but few look into that pit and deal with it. We all have these moments, and for me at least, drinking delayed me dealing with the parts of my life that are not the way that I want them to be. I spent a lot of time avoiding it, venting, obliterating myself on a bar stool, and I couldn't actually act on it. Even though there's still a lot of work to be done, I have accomplished so much. There are major milestones. I lost 45 pounds. I've started going to the gym. I've read more books than I keep track of. I've built new parts of my business. I've built so many amazing things. There are people inside of our community who've reached $1 million in their own agency. I've stepped out of my own agency and it's running by itself. And there are so many businesses and entrepreneurs who have been directly or impacted by my actions. And then there are the smaller things that maybe nobody ever notices. I've never driven my Jeep drunk. My clothes that used to be my skinny clothes are now too big for me now. I wear a belt because I have to. I don't wake up in the middle of the night thirsty. My kids can sip from the cup that I'm holding without first asking what's in it. My wife has a lot more respect for me. I'm seeing the cool things and the funny things that my kids are doing. I know who my friends are. I've explored new hobbies. I've rekindled old ones, and I've explored spirituality where I previously outright rejected it. I haven't had a hangover in 5 years. I've cured chronic medical ailments and so many other things. I'm grateful for where I am today. I love the fact that I get to work on it more. Now, I know what I'm doing isn't for everyone. It's not the norm. We live in a world where the person that's not drinking is the one with the problem. So I'm still figuring out how to navigate situations, friendships, where I've changed the way that I'm playing the game. This has been among the toughest challenges. Thank you for being patient with me. Is abstaining from drinking a forever thing? This is something I've asked myself over and over again, and I still don't know the answer. All I know is that as long as my intuition guides me this way, it will be. So I won't be drinking with you today. Over the years, I've been asked questions by so many people curious about what I'm doing. There's many people that have pulled me aside to dig deeper and to ask questions only to reveal that this is something that they hope for themselves too. Now, I certainly didn't aim to be a tour guide on this journey, but if that's something that you feel comfortable receiving from me, I'd be happy to help. Some might prefer to explore Annie Grace's book. She's got a great audio version of that. Join her community. She has a 30-day challenge at alcoholexperiment.com. Also head over to Reddit at the Stop Drinking subreddit and see what's possible. All right, so that's what I got. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for supporting me. So for me, drinking was my big domino. Somewhere in your life, somewhere in your agency, you have a big domino. It's your job to find it.